Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Dream Center. I want to thank my man Tim Newton and the team here at the Dream Center for allowing us in this evening. Thank you, Tim. We want to start by recognizing and introducing our city councilors that are here. We have our council chairman, Phil Lakin. Phil, thank you for being here. We have councilor from District 6, Christian Bingle, also here. And in the front row, we have our Deputy Mayor, Crystal Reyes. Crystal, thank you for being here. Everybody here's a VIP, but I wanted to make sure I point out those folks. You're going to meet our panel in just a second. This is our fifth and final community conversation of this last round. The first time we did these, it was really about bringing City Hall into neighborhoods. What we wanted to do with these last five was to take deep dives into different issues facing the city, to give residents and citizens a good kind of flavor for what it takes to do the things that we know are necessary, but also to have folks on the panel who are deeply engaged in that work at the city and within the community. And we have a number of people who are here from our team at the city across all departments who are also here. So as we go through the night, and I'll show you a little bit about how tonight's going to go. As we go through the night, I imagine there'll be some questions that are left unanswered potentially. I think you all, if you don't, do we have cards? Does everybody see a card that came in? If you have a card, scribble that question down on there. We'll get to some at the end. But if you have some that didn't get addressed, make sure you do use that card and make sure one of us gets it in our hand. This is probably going to work decently for the rest of the time, I hope. We started a little bit late, but we're gonna quickly catch up. You're gonna start to hear from our panelists in just a second. I will go ahead and introduce them right now. Their pictures are at the very end, but I never ever get to the end picture with all the panelists, and so you never really get to see their beautiful faces on the screen, but they're here. So right here, right to my left, your right, is Dr. Pasha. He's our Chief Health Officer at the City of Tulsa, working on our Office of Health and Wellness at the City and the Mayor's Office. We have Sherry Carrier, who is the Director of Tulsa Animal Services. So you'll hear a lot from Sherry tonight. You have James Wagner, who is our Deputy City Administrator, the Director of Planning and Neighborhoods. And finally, we have my man, Billy White, the king of HBCU Homecoming Weekend, but he's with the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, and we'll be talking about the community work that they're doing. So as I said before, this is a good balance of folks from our team at the city, but also representative of organizations that are going out into the community every single day. So with that, just really quick review of our priorities at the city. So we do a little more than 6 things every day, but there are really 6 things that help drive so much of how we organize ourselves at City Hall. At the top of the list is our goal to end homelessness by 2030. The goal around increasing our housing stock. Our goal is to get 6,000 affordable units out of the ground over the next 4 years up until 2028. 13,000 overall across the next decade. Improving student outcomes. Making Tulsa the safest big city in the country. Ensuring equality of economic opportunity. And co-governing with tribal nations. All those things are things we focus on every day. But at the core of those, the change that's necessary across all those areas, we actually really do believe that change happens in place. We think that change happens in neighborhoods. And so that's the reason why we come tonight to talk about neighborhood vitality. You'll hear about the Neighborhood Conditions Index, because we certainly see ourselves, hold ourselves accountable for using data to impact those 6 things on the screen. But again, at its most basic level, we think that work happens in neighborhoods. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bill White, talk a little bit about the work of the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, but more importantly, the work in the community as we think about that change area, that place area, that neighborhood area. So Bill, take it away.
Thank you very much. Hopefully everyone can see me. Do I need to stand or can I just sit down? Stand?
I was going to tell me to sit, yeah. Oh, hold on, wait a second. Made a mistake, didn't see him back there. City Auditor Nathan Picard. Thank you, Nathan, for being here.
Well, thank you much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for having me here and the Terrence Crutcher Foundation. Again, my name is Bill White. I am the Director of Economic Development and Cultural Engagement. And the heartbeat, and I'm just going to read what I have, so that way I can make sure I'm precise and stay within my 5 minutes. The heartbeat of the Terrence Crutcher Foundation's work has always been advocacy, community engagement, ensuring that we center the voices of the community in everything we do. We believe that the people who live closest to the problems are closest to the solutions. So when we talk about transforming Tulsa, particularly North Tulsa, it begins and ends with the people who call these neighborhoods home. We believe that community problems demand community solutions. That's why our very first step in understanding what our neighborhoods need isn't in an office or behind a desk. It's in the streets, on the porches, and at the doors of our neighbors. Through our large-scale community walks, more than 100 volunteers come out to listen to the people of Tulsa. We don't show up with assumptions, we show up with open ears and open hearts. Since our inception, we've knocked on over 75,000 doors, and over the past 2 years conducted 30,000 community surveys. And no matter who we talk to, young, old, black, white, right or left, the same theme echoes block after block. Number one, not enough streetlights. Number two, stray animals roaming neighborhoods. Number three, violence that makes people afraid to step outside. Number four, and the need for mental health support. These are not abstract issues. These are day-to-day realities shaping people's lives. The voices we hear on these walks are not just stories, they're data. And that data tells the same story our neighbors do. In 2019, as we look at the map over there, the Tulsa Planning Office identified areas with the greatest need for streetlights. On the map on the top right, those areas show up in pink, as you see up at the very area. Now look at the map on the bottom left. It shows homicides in recent years, and you'll see the same neighborhoods. Tulsa has had 42 homicides so far this year compared to 50 last year. The connection is clear. Where infrastructure is weak, violence often finds room to grow. That's why the Terrence Crutcher Foundation is working alongside the City of Tulsa, My Brother's Keeper, Youth Services of Tulsa, and other partners to launch a community violence initiative. We're deploying credible messengers, individuals with lived experience who can mediate conflicts, prevent gun violence, and interrupt retaliation before it begins. But violence isn't the only map that repeats itself. Whether we look at chronic absenteeism, evictions, or access to healthy foods, the same areas on the map, North Tulsa in particular, keeps lighting up. Even when we look at something as specific as animal bite incidents involving children, we see the same story. If you look at the map at the bottom right, you'll see the little black map over there. It's unsafe for kids to walk to school and discourage neighborhoods from even leaving their homes because of the dogs. That's why we're partnering with Impact Tulsa, Dream Center, and Antioch Baptist Church to launch a walking school bus for students at John Hope Franklin Elementary School, a program that pairs adult chaperones with kids along with pre-planned routes to ensure they get to school safely. Right now in Tulsa, 32.9% of Tulsa students are chronically absent, and those numbers are highlight right here in Tulsa, And since 2020, animal control officers have responded to 199 animal bites and incidents involving children under 18. That's just not data, that's 199 families whose lives were impacted. We're also partnering with Action Tulsa Stray Dog Coalition to explore long-term solutions, like grant funding to pay for spade and neutering to address the root of the issue. In closing, the bottom line is this: a neighborhood-centric approach to improve our city is not just effective, it's essential. Because the truth is, some areas have historically received much more investment than others. At the Terrence Kircher Foundation, we're working to ensure change that changes. With amplifying the voices that have gone unheard for too long, we're turning community input into action. And we're showing what possibilities are possible when every neighborhood, every child, every family feels seen, heard, and valued. Together we can build a Tulsa where safety, opportunity, and hope aren't determined by your zip code. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Bill. I very much appreciate that. I'm James Wagner. I'm the director of the Planning and Neighborhoods Department. And I want to actually kind of build on what Bill was just saying. A few years ago, we did a study and we surveyed 20,000 Tulsans, and we were asking the question, what is connected to a life that is thriving? And we asked lots of questions that kind of were the hypothesis of what might connect to that. And two things rose to the top. One was when people said that they felt like their neighborhood was the perfect place for them. So in other words, they felt like they belonged in their neighborhood. And the other was when people felt like they were heard by city leaders, which is part of what we're doing tonight. So I really think that's a kind of a beautiful connection between those things and thriving in life. And so a lot of what we're doing in the city's Planning and Neighborhoods Department is connected to those things. Our mission statement is to improve the well-being of people and places by cultivating an attractive, safe city that empowers residents to become engaged civic leaders. So I'm going to talk about a few things that connect to that mission that we're doing, and then maybe even give some ideas about how you can connect to what's going on in your neighborhood. So I'll start with code enforcement. I've got some statistics up here about what we're doing in code enforcement, and a lot of that is trying to make sure that neighborhoods are well-maintained places. We respond to complaints that are put through to us through 311, our customer care center, and through the app, which you can lodge complaints that way. We have a process where we have our code enforcement officers go out and determine whether there's an issue, and if there is, they provide notice to the owner, and then if that issue is not taken care of, then an abatement occurs. The good news is, as you can see here, in about 2/3 of the time, that notice is enough to get the owner to take care of the issue, to reduce whatever it is, whether it's tall grass like what's seen here in the picture or something else. But if it's not, then we can hire a contractor to get that work done. The challenge that we have is that during the growing season, basically the spring and summer and into the fall, that this is kind of the end of that season, we get really far behind because we have a lot of cases. We have 16,000 cases a year, but most of those come during the growing season. So you see there's a 90-day wait time there. What that is that's the time that it takes an inspector to get out to just take the first look at that issue, because we are 3,000 cases behind during the growing season. So that's a challenge that we're facing, but it's something that we're aware of, and we're always trying to improve our response time on that. Most of our complaints are around tall grass and weeds. That's the most common thing that we get, and so that's most of what we're taking care of. If you are interested in knowing about the status of a code violation case that you've reported, you can go to cityoftulsa.org/code, and there's a link there that you can look up the status of it. So that way you can kind of find out what's the status. There's also a QR code. I'm not sure if that'll work from where you're sitting, but that's there as well. There's also, we've created some door hangers that you can hang on a door. If there's an issue with a violation, you can go and hang on the door. We have some of those over here. And so that's a way that neighborhoods can kind of get engaged and say, hey, look, there's tall grass here, or there's a car parked in the yard or something like that, and get neighbors engaged. Another program I want to talk a little bit about is our multifamily inspection program. There are 674 apartment complexes throughout the city, and a program that we started a couple of years ago was making sure that every one of those apartment complexes have livable conditions. So we're systematically going throughout the whole city, inspecting those, and making sure that they are habitable places to live. So we're doing that, and we're through about 3/4 of them now. We've been at it for almost 2 years now, and we are getting good response from property owners in terms of correcting those issues. Sometimes they take some time because sometimes they have an expense to them, but we're making some progress with that. There's also a way you can, if someone is living in an apartment complex, you can actually file a complaint, and we'll come out and look at that as well. So that's a program that we have. We can go to the next slide. The third program I'll talk about with code enforcement is dilapidated structures. This is an actual photo from Tulsa, and it's a case where we had given the owner notice there was a dilapidated structure. As you can see, it was. And the result was the owner rehabbed that house, and now it's the house that you see on the bottom. I think it's actually a duplex. And so this is a way that we are encouraging owners to make progress on rehabbing units that are not in good condition, reducing blight throughout the city. In about 40% of our cases, they result in an owner actually doing the rehab. And then sometimes they are beyond repair, and so the owner ends up having to demolish those houses. But I thought that was a really good example of one that was right here in Tulsa, and we have about 189 cases right now that we're working with that. So I'll switch now to our neighborhood programs. We have 2 programs with a little bit different focus. One is called Neighborhood Academy. This is a program that's open to anyone that wants to really develop their leadership skills in a neighborhood. We've had 2 cohorts of this program so far. The first one had about 40 participants. The next one almost doubled that, about 70 participants in the cohort that's going on right now. And I'll just give a plug right now. There's an event that's culminating the group that's going through it right now on Thursday night, this coming Thursday at Rudisill Library at 6:30, and it's a neighborhood resource event where we will have about a dozen different departments of the city there for neighbor leaders to come and interact with. So 6:30 Rudisill on Thursday. Let's see, I guess it's not. Let's see.
A week from today.
A week from today, yes. We're trying to think what day it was. So the other thing is that we have already opened registration for the spring 2026 cohort. So if you go to cityoftulsa.org/neighborhoods, you can already sign up for that next cohort. And if you attend all 3 of the courses, the mayor and the city council will recognize you for being a leader in your neighborhood. Go to the next slide, please. The other thing I want to talk about, which is briefly mentioned, and I think Dr. Pasha will talk more about the Neighborhood Condition Index, but we have a pilot program that's based on these reports that we created a couple years ago called the Neighborhood Condition Index. And we invited neighborhoods to apply to this program, and there are 3 neighborhoods that are currently going through it: Sequoia, Suburban Hills, just not far from here, and the Charles Page neighborhood. And what we're doing there is we're really partnering with those neighborhoods and asking what is a priority for the neighborhoods to make progress on. And so some examples of things that we're working on are loose animals, as Bill mentioned, property upkeep, reducing crime. So we are bringing in the resources from the city, but really letting the neighborhood take the lead on what those priorities are, and defining how we're going to make progress on those, and there's action plans that we're following up on. There will be another round of this also. June of next year, we'll open up applications for that program as well. So I think those are the end of my slides, so I will pass it to Sherry.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Sherry Carrier. I'm the Director of Tulsa Animal Services. I'm sure many of you have called our phone number before. I want to talk a little bit about services that we have and how we're responding to some stray animals and problems that we've had in the past and currently. So we have a team of about 45 people. This year, we're trending about 7,500 animals so far. Last year, we took in almost 8,500 animals. Seems like a lot. It is a lot. It is. So animal services overview. These are a lot of our goals that we're working on now and for the future, especially when we open our new facility. We're trying to get geared up for when we get in there. I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. But there are people that are having financial difficulties, especially nowadays. So we're trying to benefit those people with the services that we're providing by offering food, some veterinary care when we can. We're lucky that our city council and mayor, we're fortunate to have an additional part-time veterinarian now, so we're trying to get some more of those services offered for the community to be able to handle spay-neuter services and vaccinations and rabies vaccinations for safety reasons, and obviously the stray problem. If we can combat spay and neuter at low cost or no cost for our communities, that's going to help our battle that we're facing right now. So that's really our goal for now and for the future. The stray intake, it just keeps coming, and unfortunately for us, there's just too many animals and not enough people to keep them. I mean, that is the reality that we're facing here in Tulsa, in Oklahoma, and just the United States as a whole. So it's not just us, it's everywhere. But fortunately, we're working with partners to try and get animals out of here to other states and get them out of our facility so that we don't have to euthanize more. Increased adoption rate. Our adoption rate has increased. You'll see some statistics here in a minute, and I'll talk to you more about that. And our goal really is to reduce euthanasia rates, even though the stray population is horrifying, especially in North Tulsa. We know that. We're trying to combat that with some of our new programs that we're implementing before we open the new facility, but it is an ongoing problem. We realize it, we know it, we know you're struggling here in your community, and we want to do what we can to help. So 78% live release rate in 2025 compared to 66% 2 years ago. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a big deal. 79% average is Oklahoma. 83% average is the United States. So it is a big deal for us. We want to make it to 90%, but it's going to take a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work. And our team focuses on those efforts every day. 40% owner surrender animals. Those are the people that can't afford animals, that it's breed specific for apartments. Apartments are now requiring not only a deposit, but monthly fees to have an animal.
Yep.
So those are, difficult restrictions that we're trying to work with apartment complexes and some other folks to try and see if we can't change those things. And in 2023, it's a 40% increase from 2023. 19% is a projected stray animal intakes increase from 2025 compared to 2023. So yes, the stray animals have increased in our communities, but that's also attributed to animals not being spayed and neutered. So that's the problem, that's what we gotta fix. We've got projected increase of adoptions in 2025. This is awesome. 51% compared to 2023. I really attribute that to our volunteers, our fosters, the people that are putting communications out for us, our communications department, sharing information about animals, sharing at-risk dogs on our euthanasia list. I mean, the whole community of volunteers and fosters have stepped up, and the City of Tulsa Communications Department, our liaison, has done a magnificent job with our community liaison at our facilities. So I can't say enough about it. This is just amazing work as a teamwork and our community partners. Projected reduction of euthanasia is going to be 22%, which is also an awesome decrease for us from 2023, 9% from 2024. And then increase in transfer to rescue. We've made so many new partners out of state. Like some of the northern states don't have the problems that we do here. So we're getting animals out of the facility, we're saving lives. We have transport partners, so we don't have a van to transport. We don't really have the folks to do that. Community partners are doing this for us to get animals out of here and save their lives. Our community projects, James mentioned the Neighborhood Conditions Index, and I know you're going to hear more about that. We actually sent out a survey to 3 neighborhoods to see who would benefit from spay-neuter services, and we had over 200 people respond. So we're increasing our efforts now, working with our agency partners. Humane Society of Tulsa is one of those, to try and set up clinics, mobile clinics in these neighborhoods to be able to give those services at low cost or no cost to these neighborhoods. So, I mean, we had to cut that off for our survey because it was just too many people and too many animals. So we're going to try to make this happen and then go to the next round and see if we can do it again. Partner with GKFF Invest North. I think I saw Brandon here. Thank you, Brandon. We are working on some collaboration with Invest North area to have collars, leashes, tags, microchips for these residents, for their animals. It's easier for us to identify animals if they're microchipped. That's really easy for us to do. It's low cost. Plus having a pet tag is just a second identifier. It's so important for people to do that. Return to owner is just a blessing for us when we can do it in the field and those animals don't have to come into the facility to wait. So that's really something that's important to us, important to that area, and that's going to start really soon. Increase animal control officer patrol efforts. So we have saturated certain areas and North Tulsa in certain areas here. I've actually been out myself with our officers, investigators to do multi-sweeps. We're trying to do more of those. It's very difficult sometimes, but we have gone in and I know one area we went in and we pulled out over 30 dogs in one day. So we are doing more of those things. Just bear with us as we figure out what areas, and if you do have an area of concern and there's a lot of complaints, there's some information at the end of this on our slide that will give you numbers and contact email information that we'll be happy to assist your area if you have those problems. Community projects. Keeping pets and people together is huge for us. So resources and services, that's our ultimate goal for the future. Like we want to be able to give people what they need to keep them and their pets together. And that means food, collars, leashes, pet tags, microchips, spay, neuter, vaccinations. That's what we want to get to. We don't want stray animals in your community. We want people to be able to handle their pets, know how to take care of them, and we want to assist them. Microchip scanners in all the fire departments now. That was really a cool idea. We got a grant from Best Friends. They paid for all of that. Thank you for the fire department's participation in that. I mean, it's amazing. It's working. People are very happy about it. It's just an easy process to keep those animals in the community that they came from. And the best part, we're building a brand new facility. We're going from 16,000 square feet to 24,000 square feet. We don't want to fill that building up, so we're trying to put things in place to get there. But we hope to open that facility by like September of 2026. So it's a game changer. There's a beautiful meeting space there. All of you can enjoy that meeting space. If you have a meeting to hold, come out and see it. What you should really do is see the old facility now. If you haven't been there, then come out to the new facility and see that one. That's my ugly mug with my buddy. That's Nuggy. That was a cruelty case that came in, and actually one of our team members adopted that dog, so that's a pretty cool end to that story. Our number here for dispatch, 596-8001. If you don't get through, because we get multiple calls, I think we had 26,000 calls in like a 3-month period. There is a voicemail system, so please leave a voicemail. We will contact you back. If you have anything you want to report that's concerning, go to Taz Info, or if you just have comments, if you need services. And if you have cruelty that you suspect, you can do it anonymously at cruelty@cityoftulsa.org. So thank you very much.
Right.
All right. We're going to show some statistics here. Stats are important, so I want to spend a little bit of time there, but I also want to add a little bit of context. What all of this is saying is that we've got a lot of opportunities for health here in our city. Whether it's chronic disease, obesity, mental health is maybe the most pressing crisis going on right now. Suicide rate, unintentional drug overdose rate. We've got some major needs in terms of health. What I don't like to do is miss the forest for the trees. We can sometimes kind of trip over these statistics and lose sight of the fact that these statistics represent real people. That's lives lost, that's opportunities lost, that's missed holidays, that's missed weddings. These are real people. These are our Tulsans whose lives are being cut short. And there's a lot of work to do. As we begin to talk about the work that this office is doing, this Office of Health and Well-Being, I've had folks ask, what does this mean that the health systems aren't doing their job? And I think that's a reasonable question, but it calls to the fact that we have to have a fundamental shift in how we think of health. Right? You may know the health care that somebody receives only accounts for about 10% of their overall health. So we have to begin to change the narrative. Right? We cannot healthcare ourselves out of this. Right? Does that make sense? The best analogy I ever heard was when you have a headache. You take Tylenol, which doesn't cause autism, by the way. You have a headache, you take Tylenol, the headache goes away. That does not mean that your headache was caused by the lack of Tylenol. Right? So think of it from a healthcare perspective. When you're unwell, you get healthcare, you get better. That does not mean you were unwell because of the lack of healthcare. Now, when we need it, we need it. But we have to start thinking about this work not as healthcare deliverers, but more like developers. We have to build neighborhoods that can provide a basis for health and well-being. And so that's how we're approaching this work. So we're going to do that. One is by being a convener. We are in a position with our wonderful mayor, the mayor's office, to really leverage that to bring folks together. And we need to align our efforts with our priorities, and one of the major priorities with housing and homelessness and public safety, student outcomes, mental health plays a big role in all of those factors, right? And so we are gonna really lean in and develop a meaningful mental health strategy that's gonna touch on all of those priorities. We have been and will continue to convene our lawmakers and our policymakers and our influential people in this community to get those dollars, those resources back into the community, many of which have been pulled away, which is gonna make this crisis grow. And so we are working hard behind the scenes and in front of the scenes to do this work. And just if you don't hear it, doesn't mean that it's not going on. And we've got a lot of people in this room that we've been on calls with that are doing the work to bring these resources back into the community. Currently, we are operating a $4 million federal grant that is focusing on the mental health of Tulsa children. The two main goals of that, one is to get those children the care that they need, which often means getting them out of the emergency departments and into proper mental health services. So we're building these systems of care with many partners, some of which are in the room, to really handhold and walk the children and their families through these processes to keep them well, to keep them in school, to have their families be able to thrive in the ways that we hope for all of our Tulsans. We also, with this, are trying to remove the burden that our hospitals and our health systems are facing right now, where they're having to admit folks with mental illness into the emergency departments, which is not the best place for them, which also means those are beds that people who have physical needs are unavailable to access, right? And so part of this grant is to reduce the amount of children who are, I wouldn't say inappropriately, but who land in the emergency department when there are better places for them. And so this work is going on, and we are already seeing some pretty substantial results from this grant. One thing that I'm really excited about on the convening side is standing up the Mayor's Health Coalition. Tulsa has a lot of healthcare. A lot of healthcare. We aren't short on healthcare per se, but there's a relative shortage because not everyone can access it equally, right? And so what we have to do is really de-silo the healthcare system, and that means bringing folks together. And we're gonna do it in a way that it really hasn't been done before here in this city, where we are bringing all of the stakeholders, which includes the health systems, the payers, the community organizations, the federally qualified health centers, with community members to sit down and help navigate the problems that are in front of us. I don't think it's up to me, I don't think it's up to the mayor for us to say, hey, this is what this Office of Health is gonna do. It's up to us to bring folks together so we can solve these issues collectively, right? And so the strategy of this office is going to be developed by the community at large. And I'm really excited. Our first meeting is coming up here in a couple of weeks. The mental health thing comes up twice because it's really our big priority. We are incorporating a lot of initiatives. We are really leaning into the work that's already being done on the ground. We're really excited about the potential partnerships there. One of the things and I'm not the neighborhood conditions person. I am the biggest cheerleader, I think. I have, since I started this job 8 months ago, I have talked to people all over the country about the Neighborhood Conditions Index, and their mind is blown because there is no other tool that exists that a city has put together in this country. And so the work that James and Paulina and Susan have done already is already groundbreaking. And so what we want to do is capitalize on this tool and start to build more health outcomes into this tool that's already telling us a lot about our neighborhoods, right? And if it's done well, and if we can land the appropriate amount of data partners, we could potentially be able to click on a neighborhood and know what the rate of prenatal care is in that neighborhood. Or click on a neighborhood and know what the rate of teen pregnancy is, or the rate of diabetes, and then begin to target our resources into those communities. So I am most excited about the partnership that we're establishing with our planning office, and really think we can get some things done from that.
Thank you, Dr. Bosher. Absolutely. We're rolling in the part where we're going to open it up to questions for folks in the room, but before we do, had another city councilor walk in, Councilor Lori Dector-Wright. Thank you for being here. And I'm looking for Carrie. There you are. You're probably going to take this microphone from me, I think. Carrie's going to run our microphone in just a second. But before I get the first question. But before I ask it, I just would like, if you are a city employee, just kind of wave your hand so people can see who you are real quick. So if you have some additional questions, see something. Oh, yeah, give them a round of applause. So I'm very appreciative to Ron, Sherry, James, and Bill for talking. And what I hope was clear, what I was sitting there thinking about is, not all the things that we saw. It sounds like we're talking about a lot of great things going on with the city. There are a lot of great things going on with the city. But that's not the only thing we saw. We saw a lot of things that are challenging. A lot of data we don't necessarily love. But we believe it's really important to bring those things up at the same time we're talking about progress. Because we do have a long way to go, and it's not particularly easy. We talk a lot about the stray dog issue, for example. I mean, who knew there were 8,500 animals coming into animal services every year? That's a lot, right? When we think about code enforcement, who knew that many things were happening? People were working around the clock just so we can still be 90 days behind. Part of these conversations are to have an honest conversation about the challenges we face. Also show where there's progress, but do not hide the fact that we have challenges, so we can have an honest conversation about how in neighborhoods do we improve those underlying issues all across our community. And so I would ask maybe, oh, there we go, we got another counselor. We're in her part of town. She was, no, I introduced everybody. You're on time. You were busy. I mean, she was working hard for everybody in this community is what she was doing. Councilor Vanessa Hall Harper, thank you, Councilor, for being here. Bill, I'm going to start with you, and I think it's good to start maybe from a community. Hey, let me use this microphone. Here you go, Carrie. Now you're that's messed up. I'm giving you so people can ask questions, and I'm Bill, I'm thinking about some of the things you talked about earlier, whether it be the stray dogs or the crime and those types of things. And as you guys have gone through and done the community walks, and I'm looking at some of the priorities of the city, I'm just wondering if you have any reflection on how, and I will say this too. I want to give a lot of credit to my predecessor for starting this track of being really committed to data and those being able to track things right. I certainly want to give credit to the city council as a whole, both the council that was there before I was there and the council now. And the reason is because a lot of the things that you talked about, that you all are seeing in these community walks, are reflected now in the priorities of the city. So the data plus the lived experience seems to be lining up, and I'm just curious to know, or I'm curious from your perspective, what kind of impact do you feel like that's having in neighborhoods today?
Great question. So some of the things that I think the impact is having in neighborhoods is giving neighbors the ability to voice their opinion. And not just to voice their opinion, but for them to be heard and seen as well. Because oftentimes what happens is someone may have an issue or complaint and they have no idea who to reach out to, who do I talk to about this ongoing issue. And one of the things we continue to hear is, or we like to emphasize is, your voice matters. Big, small, and difference, whether from the little kid all the way up to a 90, 100-year-old person, your voice matters because your tax dollars matter. And your voice and your tax dollars should help this city lead us all in the right direction. And then, the other thing that I think really matters is having that economic lens that we're actively attempting to do with North Point. And we're hoping with the advent with North Point, we will be able to use that as a driver to help improve the health of residents here in North Tulsa, to help the light issues, to help the stray dogs, because we know that economic activity brings down a lot of other issues as well. So that's just the part that we're playing, and we love to partner with anyone we can.
All right, I'm gonna here. I don't think I need that right now. If you have a question, here, anybody take it. If you have a question, raise your hand. Carrie's gonna find you. The microphone is gonna work from much of the question, it was probably user error also. We have a question from Miss Jane Malone over there. Yes, ma'am. If you come on time, nobody run into you. I'm just playing. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Can you hear me? Can
Yes,
you hear
ma'am.
me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's not a question, it's a concern. Those tiny homes, we don't want them in our neighborhood. It would put our property values down. And if that Sarah Grounds wants them, put them in her neighborhood. And neighborhood safety, we need more of that. The homeless are walking throughout our neighborhood, and we realize that they need a place to stay, but not, and we don't need the marijuana places, any more of them. We already have so many. And I would like to thank Sherry. She tried to find my son's dog a place to stay, and I just wasn't ready yet to give him up. But thank you, Sherry, and she should get 5 stars out of 5. I feel that you should have recognized Lori Campbell with Family and Children's Services, because that's a good partner, and she's trying to help our neighborhood also.
Yes, ma'am. Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Lori, now you got to stand up and wave to everybody. There you go. Any other questions? Right here. We go. Carrie, right way over here. You might be able to help.
I'll give it a try.
No, you're gonna need a microphone.
So I have a question and a concern. My question is, have we considered, well, let me start over. With the demographics of neighborhoods changing, we're getting more multi-generational families in a house, which means you have more cars in a home. But their driveways aren't big enough to accommodate that, so they're parking on the street in the wrong direction. So that presents a safety concern, because if I'm parked doubled up in the wrong direction, I don't have a mirror to use to pull out into the street. So if, like the doctor said, we're trying to be healthy and walk in the neighborhood, it doesn't matter if our blood pressure is low, we're gonna get crushed because somebody pulled off the parking lot the wrong way. So is there a plan to address that?
So just to make sure I repeat back kind of the concern. So the concern is about cars parked in the street and particularly like in the wrong direction, right? So so right now there's not any kind of other than obviously you can't park in front of a fire hydrant, you can't park in front of a driveway, those kind of things. But there aren't any kind of regulations that would prevent people from parking in the street. Now, cars do have to be moved on a regular basis, so that is one aspect of it. But so you can't just like leave a car in the street, for days and days and days. But there isn't any kind of any kind of regulation we have currently to prevent that. Now, obviously, parking in the wrong direction is not legal either, but it would just take kind of some enforcement to enforce that. So. But I understand the concern, especially in places where there aren't sidewalks, right? Which is a lot of places in Tulsa. There have been some sidewalks added in some areas of the city. I failed to mention this earlier, but one of the investments that was made in the Improve Our Tulsa 3 package that is will just now start to be implemented in the next year was $15 million in neighborhood improvements. And so there are 12 neighborhoods, 5 of those are in North Tulsa, and we're already starting to work with those neighborhoods on identifying the improvements that those neighborhoods want to make. So we worked with Sequoia with 2 workshops, and there's a workshop coming up, I think it's next month, with the Crutchfield neighborhood. There's 10 others that will come soon after that. So if there are specific improvements that neighborhoods want to make, we have started to fund those and really start to ask neighborhoods, like, what are the things you want to improve in your neighborhood so that we can make those investments.
James, can you just share a little bit and get your hands up? I'm looking for hands as he's answering questions, so if you have stuff, make sure I can catch you while he's answering. If you can just share a little bit, I went to one of the early meetings for one of the neighborhoods, and you all had the data up, and there's a process by which folks look at the data that they're living experience. Talk about the process where you arrive at what is the neighborhood going to work on?
So the mayor's question was about what's the process that we arrive, how do we get to like the prioritizing what the neighborhood wants to work on? In the NCI pilot project, we first start with the data that Dr. Pasha was talking about. The neighborhood condition index data, which there's a lot of it, so we kind of try to boil it down to the most essential elements. But then we start to engage the neighborhood in the conversation and saying, what would you like this place to be? So kind of vision what you would like it to be, and then we start to try to understand how can we connect that with the services that the city can provide. And so that's how we get to prioritizing animal services and public safety and property upkeep, those kind of things. And then once we've got those priorities, and we do have neighborhoods narrow in, right? Because there's if we can be focused, and I would say Mayor Nichols' administration is very focused. He talked about the 6 things at the very beginning of this, and so if we can focus in on a handful of things, we can make progress on that. And then we asked some teams from the neighborhood to partner with the folks at the city on making progress on whatever they want to focus on improving. So that's how we're doing that on the neighborhood condition index program. And then on the one what I was just talking about with the $15 million throughout 12 neighborhoods, we're actually going through a whole process of having the neighborhood identify the improvements that they want to make, and then tying that with the cost to make those improvements. So obviously there's limit. I mean, $15 million is a lot of money, but it's spread throughout 12 neighborhoods, and so trying to really narrow down on what those improvements are going to be through a pretty actually kind of fun exercise where you're looking at a map of the neighborhood and saying, what do I want this place to be like? And so it's very much neighborhood driven, very much resident driven. We're really just facilitating the conversation.
Back there, Steve. And then right there.
I just can't sit still. No, you're fine.
The lady that spoke her concern, I just wanted to follow up with her because I'm totally on the page with her. I'm noticing a lot of, I'm a homeowner, and in my neighborhood, it's becoming quite common now. They're parking 3 and 4 cars on the yard, the lawn.
Right.
I don't like it. And as far as I know, that's a violation of city ordinance. So if we can get some attention to that, like I said, every now and then I used to see it, but now it's like, oh, you just turned the yard into a parking lot. Several homes. Don't like it. as a homeowner. It's not beautification for the neighborhood at all. It's like, guys, come on. But it ties into what she's saying about, if you want to call it multi-generational, I don't know what the issue is, but you ain't got, you've got all these people trying to stay in a place and there's no parking. Oh, we're going to use the yard for parking. So I definitely wanted to follow up. I think she made an excellent comment.
Yeah, I can clarify that. So yes, it is not legal to park on something that's not an all-weather surface, which would be like grass. And so keep in mind though that the code enforcement folks don't know there's an issue until it's reported. So one thing I want to kind of take away from this is that if you report it, then it can get added to our queue to inspect that. And even more importantly, on that type of issue, reporting when the issue is happening, because sometimes it's happening at night, and so when our code enforcement folks drive by, in the middle of the day, there's not cars parked there, and then, it's happening at night. The other thing I would encourage is that, we need your partnership, and so we created these door hangers, which we have over here, and really it's just saying, hello neighbor, there's an issue, and so the issue might be tall grass and weeds, and there is a thing on here that says, there's cars parked in the yard. I know it may sound surprising, but there are folks that don't know that it isn't legal to park in the yard, and so just reminding people. And as you saw the statistic about 2/3 of the time in our code enforcement cases, the issue is resolved just with notification to the owner, and so a lot of times just letting people know is likely to get the problem solved. And if it isn't, the code enforcement folks can make sure to be out there at the right time.
I think one of the neighborhoods of the three, the parking and the grass is one of the issues that they wanted to work on. I think it was in West Tulsa, if I'm not mistaken. Was it the north one? I remember because I can't remember which neighborhood it was, but I remember that was an issue.
Suburban Hills, yeah.
Yeah, suburban. Okay. I didn't know that was suburban.
I have several questions. I'll be real quick. One, if you have a vacant lot, are there funds to help a person build housing? Like I am interested, I have 2 lots, I am concerned about the lack of housing, but I got no money. So are there any funds available to help me help the city?
Well,
That's one.
now you have us bringing in a relief pitcher, which we will. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let Gene Bullmash, who's the senior advisor for housing, just maybe Gene, if you can just really quickly respond to question number 1.
Yes.
Things done now.
Yes, so as James mentioned earlier, the Improve Our Tulsa 3 is the latest round of sales tax allocation, and there is $75 million designated for housing, and we are in the process of figuring out how to implement that. So we are negotiating a contract with a party called Housing Partnership Network. We're hoping to have that contract negotiated in the next 60 days. And then once that is happening, we're going to allocate funds for them, and they will be accepting applications for people like you to apply for and say, I want to build something on this lot, and they will be able to help either with a loan or a grant to facilitate that.
Okay, so where would that information be located? And by the way, I'm Tracy Chandler.
It will be probably located somewhere on the city's website. I can drop you a card, and if you don't find it, I will make sure that if you reach out to me, I'll make sure to put you in touch with that. But look forward to the next 60 days. We'll issue a press release once we've negotiated a contract, and they will be, trying to make that information public.
I'll get your card afterwards.
Got it.
Right. One other thing
Better run, Gene. Better run.
What makes a property uninhabitable? And I think there, with regards to the tiny homes, there may be different ideas with regards to that. One of the things that we need to understand is that there is a need for homes. So we have to maybe adjust our thinking to a degree. One concern I know that some people have is that I've heard people say, well, there's nothing to do in North Tulsa. They're just going to be roaming the streets. So what do you have in place to help them? Like, where can they get jobs? There's really nothing here. We need more development in North Tulsa.
James, do you want to that first part of the question around what makes a home uninhabitable. I think it's
Yeah.
dilapidated.
So, Ms. Chandler, I'll address the part about what makes a home uninhabitable. So, you know, I think in that photo you saw, like, a home has to have a roof that is, you know, that doesn't allow water to get into it. It has to have utility services. It has to have, plumbing and that sort of thing. So, I don't recall all of the elements in the code that are related to that, but our code enforcement officers are trained in the elements that make it habitable, and I can get that list to you. And what they're going out and looking for is, you know, is this structure, is this going to be a public safety issue? Because if it's a vacant home, you know, a home can be vacant and boarded up as long as it's secured. But if it's going to create an issue because people are getting into it because it's not secure, and potentially that increases the fire risk, for example, then it's going to be considered to be a dilapidated home, and then we're going to try to work with the owner to get that home rehabilitated, or if it's really beyond the point of being able to be rehabilitated, then potentially demolished. Yeah.
I have a question in regards to, you were talking about the funding for the different neighborhoods. Where do you go to apply for that? So how do we know when the next funding is coming up? Because we didn't even know that there was funding.
Yeah, so the question is about the funding for the neighborhood improvements I mentioned, the $15 million that is in the Improve Our Tulsa package. So the neighborhoods that are included with that were included back in 2023 when that program was put before the voters. So those 12 neighborhoods are already essentially determined, and so I do have a list of them, and if you'd like, let's see if I can find where I put that. So the neighborhoods that are in North Tulsa are Crutchfield, Dawson, the Phoenix District, Sequoia, and the Unity Heritage neighborhood. There's several others throughout the city as well. And so the planning office will be reaching out to those neighborhoods. And like I said, we've just done it with Sequoia. We're getting ready to start with Crutchfield here next month. And they'll be initiating with those neighborhoods so they can start to develop those their priorities for those neighborhoods. So at this point, it's just those 12 neighborhoods. So there isn't like an open rolling application process for that. And I also mentioned something else I want to be clear about. So the Neighborhood Condition Index pilot program, we are opening up participation in that in June. And so that can be any neighborhood that's in the priority 1 areas of the Neighborhood Condition Index. So that will be opening up in June, but that's not tied necessarily to the Improve Our Tulsa funding.
And you can go look at Neighborhood Conditions Index and just City of Tulsa, and it'll lead you, if you Google it, it'll lead you to that website with all the information on it.
Well, I am the Neighborhood Association Vice President for
Yes, ma'am.
Suburban Hills. So we are in that NIC program. So will they be looking at the group when you're going through those programs for money?
Yes, and I don't want to speak for Susan, but I think there potentially are some funds for implementing small area plans, but those are pretty limited. So I think the resources for the NCI program are mainly the supports around those neighborhoods, like the animal services and the code enforcement, those kind of supports.
Actually, I have a shout out for one of my favorite people up there, Sherry. The animals that they, Sherry is great. The animals that they take in, and I only know this because I went on a tour, they don't just take cats and dogs. And that's all I'll say.
I can say thank you.
Don't you take off running.
Good evening. My name is James Alexander, and I have a gripe, and it's a good gripe. From downtown to Apache is an entitlement area, which has been receiving money for the city since 1969. Within the last 25 years or more, the city has decided to take this money and move it everywhere but North Tulsa. This is North Tulsa's money. If y'all need to be proof, for me to prove it to you, I can do it. Anything I tell you, I have proof in it. The question is, now that the city of Tulsa knows that the people know that the money that comes to North Tulsa is not reaching North Tulsa, what is going to be done about it?
Yeah, look, I will tell you, Mr. Alexander, I've been here since December. I will look into it. I did not know that
You want to have a
information.
meeting with me?
What's that?
You want to have a meeting with me?
I
I'm
just
free.
might do that. I just
Okay.
might do that.
I'm free anytime after
Hey,
school.
you're in City Hall about as much as I am, so I bet we can find some time. Right here.
About this neighborhood
Oh, she'll give you a microphone.
about the neighborhood improvement, you mentioned something about
Oh,
priority one. What's priority one?
So
What's
everybody can hear
priority
over here.
one?
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah, so the question
I
is.
didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, I can repeat it if you.
Sure, that'd be great.
So the question, I think, is about the priority one neighborhoods and the neighborhood condition index. So the way the neighborhood condition index is structured is that we have like a score for each of the elements
You
within.
can make it short.
Okay, so keep it brief. So priority one.
You're trying to
is-
answer the question.
is basically the bottom third in terms of overall health of neighborhoods. So it's the neighborhoods that have the most need.
That's priority one.
Yes.
Yes,
If-
And is Osage County included in that?
If it's the portions that are within the city limits.
Well, see, this is city, but we're Osage County.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, yeah. If it's within the city limits, yes.
Okay, now that list that you're speaking of, 12 homes, that list, I saw the list about a year ago when it was first brought up in a meeting, and they had already had the 12 people at the list, on the list. So before anyone even could vote on it, they already had the list. I was at the meeting.
So the list that I was referring to was the Improve Our Tulsa list that was presented, that was discussed before the voters went to the ballot to approve Improve Our Tulsa 3. So that would have been like 2023.
2023.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right up front, and then we'll come to you, Linda. Right up front, right here, and then.
I just want to ask, how can we get updates on where sidewalks are being put in or improved, or where lighting is being turned on, or street lines? I mean, you can, if it rains, or if there's anything going on, if it's too dark, you can't even see the division of the lines out north.
All right, Terry?
I'm gonna take up the microphone.
Oh, no, you can stay right
Public Works
there.
Director.
We're bringing in the Public Works Director. We're all here.
Yeah.
There he is right there.
I like that.
See it?
I was gonna bring the mic to you, but now you gotta sit over here.
Did you hear the question, Terry?
I heard sidewalks, lighting, and
Yeah.
striping.
Yes.
Okay.
And how do you find all, and then where you find all the updates and all that kind of stuff, and then, yeah.
Well, as far as sidewalks go, there aren't any exactly capital program for sidewalks. We do CDBG grant applications every year and try to get those in. So that goes actually to the council. As far as the lighting, there is, right now what we're doing is retrofitting all of the highway lighting to LED. As far as in neighborhoods, currently we don't have any new funding to add new lights currently. It's been 2 years since we've had, maybe 3 years now, since we've had any new money to add new lighting, but I know that's something we're looking at. We're working up some estimates on some of the neighborhood projects that James mentioned here earlier, and then we'll be providing that to the mayor's office to see long-term if there's some opportunities there. But it's all about, the problem with lighting is it all comes out of general fund. It all is a monthly bill. And once you install it, you have to pay for it forevermore with PSO. We don't own it. We just pay PSO to provide the lighting. So as far as striping, we restripe all the arterials once a year. We drive it. Yes, actually, we do. Highways, we don't do. That's ODOT. But as far as the roads, the arterial streets is what I'm going to say, We stripe those once a year with the paint truck. They drive it and apply paint. A lot of the, where you've had newer construction, we actually do what we call thermoplastic, and that is about a 5 to 6 year life in that area. So if it's newer construction, as that starts aging out, then we come back in and start redoing that. But we've got a striping program that we do. We've got a consultant that we issue work orders. We have 2 different contractors plus city staff that do striping, and trying to keep all that up. It is, a lot of the striping depends on what kind of winter we have. Last year we had a lot of removal, so sometimes that's harder on the striping and it starts taking it off. So even if we paint it through our traditional striping season for paint on the streets is about March through about the end of October. Once you get into the colder weather, get below, in the 40s and below, you really can't keep paint. It'll just pop right off the pavement. So we're just about to exit our striping season for the year, and then we'll start back up next spring.
And Terry,
Yeah, I do. Thank you. So
trying to get 5 stars.
he ain't getting them right now.
I said me.
Okay.
I think she gave you a 3.
Sidewalks and lighting, and even the striping. If it's March through October, we're just poop out of luck for North Tulsa then, because I visit every area of Tulsa throughout the year. And if I get outside of North Tulsa, I get to see lines. I get to see striping. I get to see lights in neighborhoods. I get to see everything in other neighborhoods that I don't get to see here, and I just want to hopefully invoke some will and wants to do more for North Tulsa, just like it seems to happen more frequently or better in other areas.
Well, the striping's all done by the same group, and it's all done throughout the city. So there's not a unique area that we do all of Tulsa. It doesn't matter what part of Tulsa you're in. They get the same striping crews, and they get the same treatments that they do. As far as sidewalks, the sidewalk, it's really, you go in and we do there's not very much sidewalk money, so a lot of what we target with what money we do get in the sales tax packages is we look for gaps. And we go in and people will put in their requests. There's about $24 million worth of backlog requests of sidewalk. We get, I think it's $275,000 a year, and we probably get another $1 million or more every year that gets added to it. So we're never gaining on sidewalk. A lot of people want sidewalks. Unfortunately, every time a funding package comes up, the city has lots of priorities and so as far as lights, I would like to address that just real quick. When you see a lot of the lighting in neighborhoods, a lot of times that was put in original to the neighborhood. So when a person purchased that lot, part of that cost was the developer paid for that lighting to go in, and then once the lots are all sold, then historically they've turned that lighting then over, and then we start paying for it. But it was part of the cost of the lot that they did when they did that. So a lot of times when you see lighting, especially in some neighborhoods, the newer ones, they pretty much all do lighting. It's not so much the city put that in, but it was done when the developer did the neighborhood. So as time goes on, if there's new money available, then we're trying to add lighting, because, as city staff, we would love to light every single street throughout Tulsa, because it does help, people see what they're doing, where they're driving, arterials, with pedestrians, more and more walking on the streets. Lighting is beneficial. It is definitely that way. But it all comes down to every light you see is, each light you drive by is about a $300 a year expense per light. So it just gets back to the general fund who has issues. The fund has issues. You've got to get new money in that if we're going to add lights.
Okay, that goes back to him then, right?
I'm over
Oh,
here.
there you go. So I said all of that because we're talking about safety in our community.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about wellness.
Mm-hmm.
We're missing it because we don't have the things that we can get out. Some of us work till late. Right. It may be dark. Well, we can't get out in our neighborhoods. Now, I can go out south and go to my friend's house, and I can go walk in her neighborhood because they got lighting, and they've got good sidewalks, And I just want to see that same equity north. So that's all I'm asking for.
Yep.
And I appreciate that you are being restrained by your funding, but then that's something we all need to be talking about then, because
I could not agree
safety,
more.
wellness.
I could not
Yes,
agree
sir.
more. We should be talking about funding. It's one of the reasons why these community conversations have been so important. Now, we can't do everything that we want to do. However, we know there are things that impact neighborhoods. We know there are priorities in neighborhoods. And I appreciate Terry and everybody here who's at the city, because they're just going to give you the information that's out there. $300 a light, I mean, it's going to be hard to get a whole bunch of lights, right? But that's a decision that we all can potentially make. Is that what we want? How do we resource it? And we have severe constraints at the city. I can tell you, you know, everybody here knows from an operational standpoint, we fund ourselves through sales tax. We don't have we can't do property taxes and income taxes and all this kind of stuff. We have one real source for our operational budget. Right now, Tulsa sits in the bottom 5. If you take the Oklahoma City Metro and the Tulsa Metro, we sit at the bottom 5. I agree it is time to have a conversation about what do we do so we can make sure we knock some of these challenges off the list. Again, can we do them all? Can't do them all, but we can probably do a lot better than we're doing today. And so
If you can get that planning started, I'll give you 6 out of 5. Ooh.
All right, a 6 out of 5. Hold on. Okay, I'll take that.
Mayor, I have a public service announcement.
Yeah.
There's a gray pickup truck that is blocking the passage over here, so if we can get whoever owns that to move it, that would be great.
If you got a great pickup, to Linda right here. If you have a great pickup, I thought you said lights were on, like, that car already started.
No,
late.
gray pickup truck parked over here on the west side of the building.
Thank you. If I could, I wanted to go back to the 90 days with respect to code enforcement before an inspector shows up. Because I wanted to know if there's anything else that's going on during that 90 days, or are we literally waiting 90 days for anything to happen with respect to a violation?
Yeah, so great question. So I want to kind of clarify what that means. So when a report comes into us, and I'm talking about during the growing season, during the peak season, you know, those 16,000 cases, the vast majority of those are coming in during the growing season because 90% of our cases are related to tall grass and weeds. And so, so what's happening, and it isn't always 90 days, but as we go longer into the summer, it gets to be that because we're so backlogged. So we keep track of our backlog, and it starts out in like April and May, maybe around 1,500 cases, and by the time we're at the end of August, it's over 3,000 cases backlogged. So those are the cases that have been reported but haven't yet been worked. And so that's the reality of where we stand given the resources that we have to work those cases. Now, what will happen is as the fall goes on this time of year, we'll catch up mostly with those cases, but then the growing season starts again in April. And so, just to answer your question very succinctly, what we are doing with that is when we get a complaint, if we already have another case that is, because sometimes we'll get more than one complaint on a house. So like maybe there's one house and we'll get 2 or 3 complaints. We'll go in and make sure that we don't have a duplicate case already. If we do, then we'll just let the customer know we've already got a case on that. They're already in the queue to be worked. But that's why I mentioned these door hangers. And I know that can be a little challenging sometimes. It's like, well, I don't know if I want to go and hang this on my neighbor's door. I understand that, but that is one way to make sure.
Right? What's wrong, y'all?
I understand.
What's wrong? Y'all scared of y'all neighbors, man?
Let me tell you about something that we're talking about doing. So we did a pilot a few years ago where as soon as we got a complaint, rather than waiting for an inspector to get out there, we sent a text message to the utility customer because we don't know that the utility customer is the owner. Sometimes they're not. And legally, we're required to notify the owner, but we don't. But we can at least notify that utility customer. So we did a pilot for several months where we were sending text messages automatically to the utility customer, and it resulted in a big jump in compliance because So when we get a message, they would, and we didn't verify that there was an issue because we didn't have the resources to get someone out there, but we at least let them know there's been a complaint. And so when we get that message, and they would say, oh, like there's maybe an issue with the property I own across, town or something, and so they would check into it, and a lot of times they would take care of the issue before our inspectors even got there. And so we're looking into doing that again. We had the city's ransomware attack in 2021 kind of brought that system down, and so we're looking at restoring that because we think that the potential for something as simple as a text message to get that notice to the owner could have a big impact on getting those cases resolved. And then when our code inspector gets there, they're just like, well, case closed, the issue's taken care of. So we're working on trying to get that system back.
And y'all need to get to know your neighbors.
Love that. Love that. Love that.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge and thank one department that I'm very familiar with at the city of Tulsa, and that's 311. I'm an avid user because I complain about everything. So there is tall grass in my neighborhood near a trail system, Midland, and I put in my complaint about the tall grass, and I understand you got a backlog. However, when they came to cut it, it was an absolute mess. There was grass everywhere. They did not weed eat around anything. It was just grass. It was a mess. I had to continue this effort in probably 2 or 3 cycles to get them to come back and fix this disaster because it was terrible. Like, who wants to walk there? So they finally got it done. So I want to acknowledge that, and I appreciate the quick response. But my concern is the quality of service. There was another complaint that I had about a street, Edison. I don't know if you're familiar with Edison, just north of downtown. There's a huge dip in this stretch of near Roosevelt. It used to be Roosevelt. That's what I remember. But there's a huge dip, and to 311's credit, they came out probably 2 days later and put some asphalt there. The dip's still there, but the quality of service sucked. Like, what was that all about? Because there's still a dip. So I guess my concern is, your response was great, but the quality of service was not. So, I mean, it was kind of like a patch job. And I'm just wondering, why is that? I mean, can we really fix this street? Because that situation is still happening. People mess up their cars and so forth going. I know everybody knows about that dip, and it's still there, but the asphalt did not fix the problem, so quality of service would be appreciated.
So, Terry, I'm going to ask you maybe one more time. First of all, I want to say, Terry Ball, I love him, so he's going to come, we're going to talk. I want to, Terry is not the cause of all problems, Public Works. I think it is important to understand in context why some of these things are challenging, maybe why you see maybe patchwork happen first as we work through those things. Terry, if you just kind of talk about, if you don't know the specific situation.
Yeah, not knowing exactly where, but biggest thing that we have a problem with when we do get 311 complaints is getting good information exactly what, because sometimes it'll just say there's a pothole or maybe. So I think one thing, if you ever send in requests, the more specifics you can give, especially the right address. We fight a lot with bad addresses, but then if it's a dip with the car, then just, if you can give me exactly where that's at, I can get it checked. But a lot of it just gets back to the quality of information that we get to go out on the site. Now, when we go out and we get a lot of calls about potholes, and we try to get those, a lot of them we get the same day. If not, we get by the next day. If there's anything, that you would consider to be where it could be a pothole that could cause damage, always say that when you notify 311, and where you get out there, usually in less than an hour to get those addressed if it's during normal hours. If it's after hours, we have an on-call supervisor who comes in from home, gets in the truck, and goes out there and fills that hole during the middle of the night if we get one. So I think a lot of it is just please be specific of what you've got. It's not gonna get you a new road. The only way we get a new road is we have a capital project there, but we will try to do, depends on what it is. We'll start out with a temporary patch just to get the issue fixed. If needs a permanent patch, what they'll do is they'll note on the work order that a permanent fix is needed, and then we go. Sometimes the dips in the road are more than just a dip. Sometimes it can be a utility line that's failing. Sometimes you can have an issue with a stormwater pipe. You can have a problem with an AT&T conduit, a sewer line. There's all kinds of things that can cause a dip in the road. So just get that to us. We'll go out and investigate it. We've been working 2 different ones, one downtown where we had a collapse this weekend. We've got a couple others that what we do is we go in and do dye testing on our infrastructure. If it's tight, we look and see who else is around there, and we'll try to. So sometimes it takes us a while to figure out who or why. If we don't find any reason, then what we'll do is cut it out. We'll do a permanent patch there, and that should be it. But if you can come by, and I'll get the actual address from you, and then we can look at that. But other than that, we try to be responsive to the calls. So.
Terry, can you just real quick, maybe even also, so you talked about the streets program.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if there's not a streets program? There's something wrong with it about the constraints we have as it relates to that other street, the Texas street that we're fixing. Why can't you fix those streets?
Far as with capital money?
Yeah, well, I'm saying ones on the project. Let's kind of explain how we go about those, and then what's different about the other ones, and how we might be able to mitigate that.
Right. If we go and look and see there's a future capital project on there that's already on an approved CIP, we will still fix the road to get it through till that project gets there. If there's not, then what we'll do is we'll do, like I said, whatever repair that field supervisor feels basically remedies the complaint. Now, one thing that we do look at, just separate from 311 calls coming in, we're always looking every year. We do what we call routine preventive, where we'll go in and do crack sealing. We'll go in and do mill and overlay work if it meets the criteria of being able to go in and do that. And we look at different locations all throughout town every year and try to, not a lot of money there, but we try to touch as much pavement as we can with the amount of money we get each year through that capital program that we'll go in and do, various repairs. I call it like a toolbox. We have lots of tools in our toolbox to do various things depending on the age of the pavement and what will help extend the life of that pavement. It could be microsurfacing, it can be crack sealing, it can be a bit mill and overlay. Some of it is we just go in and do some replacement. If it's concrete streets, we'll just go do some panel replacements. But it all gets back to, how is that pavement behaving? How much fun do we have at the time? We try to do everything we can to get that where you are getting from point A to B, that your car's still in good shape, and that hopefully you've had a good ride from one point to the other. But again, if you see issues out there, if you'll let 311 know, it goes straight to our street department that day or the next day for sure if you call after hours. But if it's something you ever see at night or any time of the day, please call in, because we do have somebody. If it's something that what we call a rim buster, we will have somebody even out that night putting something in it. It's going to be a temp patch at night, but we'll go in there and put some cold asphalt, cold patch is what we call it, into that hole so that it's a safe drive that night until we get a crew there that next day to look at it and see what we need to do long term.
Thank you, Terry. All right, so I'm going to do the last 2.
Hey, Mayor, before we get off that topic, Council Hall Harbor had a wonderful reminder. So for locations and these dips and potholes, if you can, use the 311 app, and you can upload an actual picture with the location, so that will help the crews know what they're looking for.
All right, we got 2 more because we're start over there. Because we're running low on time. We have our team here who I'm sure will stick around for a little bit. But Tim came in and looked at me crazy, which meant it's time to get out of this house.
Hi, good evening. So, thank you to the city council, the mayor, and everybody involved in the new shelter. That's great. It's wonderful. However, as somebody who's been in the rescue business, I was a foster canine coordinator for the Tulsa Animal Welfare in the 90s and 2000s. We cannot rescue, adopt, transport, or euthanize our way out of this problem. This is a mindset of people not wanting to sterilize their dogs. And I understand all the adoption, all the spay and neuter
opportunities because they're plentiful. There's no reason. It is a mindset, particularly pit bulls. So I'm not just up here talking about this, that, or the other. I live it. I have to rescue pit bulls now. I have a stray I pulled off the street now. I have fostered, I have adopted, I have rescued, I've donated, and I've transported to Maine, to Wyoming, to Minnesota, to Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio, Kansas. What are those cities and states doing that we are not? And why aren't we enforcing the ordinances? We're talking about communities and ordinances. We got to stop it at the source, which is humans.
Yeah, Carrie, Sherry, you might just talk really quickly about some of the investigations that you all have been able to, just in the last several months. And then I maybe have a point after that. Go ahead.
So I do agree with you. It is a mindset. Oklahoma is a little bit different. It's challenging. We don't have state laws that represent us the way they should. I totally agree with you. Our ability to work with partner agencies who can get grants and funding, and I think I saw maybe one board member here from SPCA. We work with multiple partner agencies to attempt to do these mobile clinics in the communities to attempt to help, but you're right. No pun intended, but you can lead a horse to water, can't make it drink, right? So I think education and just getting more notice of opportunities to the public out there and more opportunities. We have some, and it's sporadic. You have, organizations like Spay OK that are booked 30, 60, 90 days out. You have us that have, 30, 35 surgeries, spay neuter every single day of animals in the facility or more than that. You have a clinic that's fully functional at SPCA that does low-cost services every single day. So you can't pull resources from those partner agencies or the city animal shelter all the time to go out and do these things, and that's what frequently happens. We have to get people from out of state, veterinarians, which if you don't know this, veterinarian shortage is huge. It's the #1 suicide occupation in the United States. So we can't even hardly get veterinarians here to do medicine, veterinary medicine. It's so difficult. We're blessed to have a great doctor in our facility, another part-time doctor that just was approved in our facility, but those people are getting older, they're gonna leave, and it's gonna be rough for us to get replacements. So I totally agree with you. I think it's a community effort. I commend you for everything you just said, because everything you said is what we say to people every day. Foster, adopt, donate, participate, volunteer, get involved. That's what we're asking everybody in the community to do. Because
finding people who aren't sterilizing their animals?
Yeah, so Sherry, will you talk about the, because I know
Tickets.
you all, the tickets and the, you all, because of the work of your investigators, actually had a pretty big announcement a little while back that I'll let you talk about.
So we, not too long ago, started the process of a $30 voucher. If you get a citation, which we increased the fines to $250, it was $75, and everybody knows that's nothing, right? It's chump change. So $250, but we give you a voucher if you decide to go to one of our partner agencies or our facilities to spay or neuter your animal. The municipal court could waive that $250, erase that ticket, you get a $30, or if they can't afford that, I know our partner agencies wouldn't charge them that. So that is working. We're seeing it work. Some of the other things that we're doing is, you have to understand, we only have so many ACOs, animal control officers, and leads. We can't go door to door and knock and say, hey, I see that your pit bull there is still has something that needs to be removed. I'm going to cite you for that. But I wish we could. But you're literally, you have 8 ACOs. If we're fully staffed, and it's 200 square miles. So even the call times, take a little longer. But I promise you, our efforts have increased. We're looking at ways to do even more for that. I applaud you and I appreciate you. And Mayor, I'm not sure about which investigations.
We have a puppy deal we got, or a guy and all
Oh, yeah. So we are working, actively working, and one of the slides that we had with the TAS info, we get multiple inquiries to that, and also the cruelty. And that is really helping identify these backyard breeding places, and we busted a couple of recent large-scale puppy and dog breeding places, and had to get the assistance of our partner agencies with those things because it was so large. So those emails, those anonymous calls, all those things are assisting us in finding these things. Not just puppies and adult dogs now. It's cockfighting and other things that are happening that bring on, drug use, violence, guns. All those things are the links. That's what they call it. It's a link to all those other crimes that we're seeing. So we are getting a lot of tips for the tools that we have now.
I hope it's a good one. So, on the big time lag on code enforcement, sounds like the automated text system is a really good option that provides you some benefits. I assume you're not happy with that, and you may be working on some other things to try to improve that. Some seasonal hires for, or that sort of thing, temporary employees that can supplement what you're doing, or repurposing other city employees to help with that. I just thought maybe you could address that a little bit on what you're trying to do to improve that.
Oh yeah, we're certainly not happy with 90 days being the wait time to get a code enforcement inspection. So we're thinking of all of those kind of things. And so, it's kind of just a matter of getting the resources to do it. The mayor mentioned this earlier. It's like, and I want to kind of put something into context. Sherry reminded me of something, 200 square miles of city. So, the city of Tulsa is huge. And if you look at cities around the country and you compare, like how big are some of the cities you would think of as like big cities around the country. We are larger than the city of Miami, the city of Boston, the city of Seattle, and the city of, I'm forgetting the last one.
Washington,
D.C., I think? San Francisco combined. And so, in terms of like the breadth of the city, it's just the challenges around maintaining roads and, all the things we have, it's a lot of area to cover. So yes, I mean, we certainly would need more resources to be able to, reduce that backlog to something that's, a reasonable amount of time to get an inspection. But we're also thinking about innovative ways to do that, like the text messaging. So it's, we're thinking on both, adding resources, but also thinking of better ways to do it. Yeah.
So we are going to wrap tonight. I don't think there's another slide. You can see the ways you can connect with us. First of all, help me thank our panelists for tonight. And what I hope, as I said before, is that we not just get a feel for all the challenges, but get a feel for, in some ways, within neighborhoods, how we can all take agency in working with the city. I like what was said a second ago. Some of it's going to take a mindset change. Mayors and city councilors can't always change people's minds. Sometimes the best people help folks see it a different way are the people who live closest to them, the people who have a shared experience with them. I think that's true about the health and mental health work that we talked about. I think it's true about the work around code enforcement and the education about, how do we make sure that we keep neighborhoods looking good, right? And so the goal, and I think it's true, we don't come into these things with a bunch of filtered information, afraid of questions that might get asked, because I think it's really important that there's transparency in how we build an excellent city. And I hope what you really heard tonight is that people at the city are really thoughtful about it. We know the concerns are real, and we certainly have a desire to meet every need that's out there. There are some constraints, but it's just going to mean we're going to have to find each other in ways in which we get over them. And so this neighborhood work, I think, is the work of the city. I'll say this, it's maybe a little bit abstract, right before, or right after I took office, I was at the U.S. Council of Mayors winter meeting in D.C. And it was the day before the inauguration, and a bunch of mayors, a lot of anxiety about what happens next, big federal change and everything, and what's the nation and the world going to look like after this. And what was true about then, what's true then about the experience, all the mayors understood that there's going to be a lot of pressure on cities to figure out, how to make progress. And now for me, I think I take it all the way down, maybe even to a more micro level. I think it's going to be all about neighborhoods and how we make that progress to make excellent cities. Cities begin to build excellent states, and as collectively, that's how we build really the foundations of this country. But it starts in neighborhoods. And so we ended talking about neighborhoods, not because we think it's the least important thing, but certainly because we think it is the most important thing. So we talked about all the things facing the city, and we ended it talking about doing those things in place. And so I appreciate you spending the time with us this evening. We do have some city employees who are here. Gene has a bunch of cards that he's still willing to give out, I'm sure. Terry is back there if you've got questions. But just about all the information in church tonight can be found online somewhere. And I'm also just going to shout out Gary Fothergill. Gary Fothergill is our public advocate. He is our public advocate. So when I get folks who reach out to me and say, Mr. Mayor, this is a problem, it goes to Carrie, and she can navigate those things. So if you have some questions, she's a great place to start. I'm sure she has to leave at some point tonight. But if you have some questions, Carrie's a great person to start with. Everybody here's a VIP. Thank you so much for spending your evening here. We are here to serve. We take it very seriously, and it's a tremendous honor. Have a good night.